sad world that we sometimes have to blame the drug marijuana or blame the drug alcohol or other things for the fact that people are trying to escape or trying to deal with their coping self-medicating for mental illness, or they're hiding some of their issues. We have a broken society based on the fact that we have greed, we have injustice, we have poverty. People have to work 2 or 3 jobs, and they have to stay up for those jobs, so they have to pop themselves with whatever it is to keep them awake. We have truck drivers who have to put things in their system so they can keep themselves awake, so they can, I mean, yes.
Mothers taking their kids Adderall because they don't have the energy to get through the day to be a single parent. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot. We're a broken society in a lot of ways.
There's a way to live your life simply. And that's one thing that unions, and I'm a big union supporter, is that we teach people how to live safely and moderate and to learn how that you could live comfortably within your means, but you want to get a living wage. You want to be able to pay your bills. And when you can pay your bills and you have a great job and you're part of a community, you'll do less drugs. You'll do less escaping. You'll want to come out and be that kind of community leader that is a role model to other people. Yeah, every day in my life, even though I've been supported legalization since I was 22 years old, I've been the first person to say, I don't want anybody doing this until they're 21, 22. I don't want anybody to think about owning a gun until they're 25, or even think about going gambling till they're 23. But again, if you fight and die for our country, or you join the military, or your family member is in the military and you're 18 years old, I mean, you have to say it's kind of hypocritical. I can't go into a bar and drink that I'm 18 and I have to wait till 21. But the point is that it's the people that want to legalize marijuana that actually are the same people that want to tell you don't do it, and to moderate and to be mindful of what's happening and to be aware. And I commend people that are in the gambling industry and now even in the alcohol industry. They're going out of their way finally to talk about responsible drinking and responsible gambling. Every gambling advertising and everything has to have
that's because of the law
and hotline. That was for regulation. That was the gaming laws that were put into place to make sure that the gaming industry, they weren't going to do it themselves, and alcohol wasn't going to do it themselves, but we have to finally tell them, but put the advertising and the warning on to remind people to drink responsibly. And now it's kind of cool to be a designated driver. I love these ads about the designated driver. I think it's really great.
So in the end, Dave, just to kind of tie it all back together, then no great loss, Mojo going on to the wrong side of the law, because it's just not really the real deal. The real fight is why is there so much fear in our society and in our legislature that people should not be able to smoke marijuana without getting the heavy hand of the law, on their back, without turning them into criminals. Where's that fear coming from? And that's what the real front is about, I guess, in our state. We're not like California. We're not like Colorado. We're not like Wyoming and these other places. I mean, here you can go to prison for most of the rest of your life if you're a habitual marijuana possessor. And
the last thing I want to say on this is that no marijuana grower, no marijuana smoker ever put oil in my Gulf or ever was greedy and trying to basically exploit our land. But if you really think about back in the day in the 30s when they finally banned it, the dirty secret is that marijuana brought people together. They made people to break down their barriers and actually look at somebody not by the color of their skin, but actually the fact that that actually there was a common bond there, and it's kind of like smoking that peace pipe. As the last episode for Treme, that was the name of it, and that was the song by Wild Magnolias. And the Indians, the Native Americans, maybe when you smoked the peace pipe with them with a little peyote in 1860, maybe you weren't going to break their treaty and kill them. And there's something to that America and the racist society that we had in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they didn't want you to smoke that marijuana because you would think about maybe integration was cool and jazz is cool, and we don't want to talk about that. Maybe we need to bring that up about how in the world did marijuana get illegal in the first place, and how did alcohol become illegal and then suddenly become legal, and why doesn't prohibition work? And I'm all about having those discussions,
I appreciate your courage in sharing your own personal experiences in life with our listeners. I personally am very much one for living life on life's terms. but I know there's a lot of people that don't. What troubles me is, the long arm of the law and the manner in which we're using the law. Because as you pointed out, some regulation might really be, appropriate. We don't want, children lighting up cigarettes or pot. We don't want them drinking whiskey when they're like 10.
Pot is very destructive for children. It's very destructive for children 10, 11, 12 that are seeing their parents are sneaking around. It's clearly a fact that it's and kids are doing it now. Isn't that amazing? Kids are doing it now because their parents are either deadbeat dads or they're just they don't care, and the effects are horrible. But making it illegal has not stopped any of that, and making it legal will not do anything about that either. We want to make that hand in hand where our schools look at sex education.
So to summarize, I guess
illegal.
what it is.
Sex, last time I looked, sex is not illegal, but we sure don't want to talk about it in
school. A lot of people think it should be, Dave.
We sure don't want to talk about that birth control because that'll scare the hell out of people. Maybe they'll actually go out and run out and do more sex, but I actually want to teach about education.
I'm going to have to wrap up, and I'm going to have to say that, at the end of the discussion, we've got to try to use the law to make a better society for everyone.
Good point.
I think there's some real questions about whether the way we're regulating drugs and alcohol, all drugs, all alcohol, marijuana is only prominently put to the forefront because most of the legal movement and social movement in our country seems to go directly in the opposite direction of what Louisiana is doing. But are we really using the power we have as a society to formulate laws and elect legislatures in a way that's really making this a better community for everyone by having these draconian marijuana laws with long prison sentences for mere possession? I don't know. I think it's a good question. Dave Capasso, tell our listeners once again, in case they need to reach you, Dave, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Well, my number is 504-250-4246, davidcapasso.attorney@yahoo.com. Sunday, May 30th at 1 p.m. at Jackson Square. Take on BP, this Holocaust in Louisiana. We've got to start doing something together now. So we'll see you there.
All right, everybody. Attorney Dave Capasso, thank you so much for giving us your time on this show.
You're welcome, man.
Tim Gates, thank you for coming and giving us some insight from the standpoint of a person involved in the commerce of, all this stuff. I really appreciate your being on the show.
Sure, it's been great. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's a wrap. Another installment of our legal show. We really appreciate you all for joining us. It's been a very interesting afternoon. We will be back next Wednesday, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock for another installment of the Ask Russell Stegeman Legal Show. We thank you all very much for joining us. And from Russell Stegeman and company, have a great day, New Orleans, and we'll see you next week.